through a bit of a PowerPoint with you all, and we would, since we're such a small group, it can be a little bit more conversational. If you have a question or something, you can always jump in. So we are on the fourth week of the Omer, so we are just about halfway to Sinai, to a really exciting time when we get to receive the Torah. And so our theme this evening is Netzach, which can mean a number of things, and that's what we're going to go over tonight, what that value means and how we can aspire to attain it. So Netzach embodies victory, endurance, it embodies strength, eternity, and just sort of like a forever aspect. So you want to go on to the next slide for me?
Just tell me. Yeah, just tell me when you want me to switch them.
Okay. Yeah, you can go ahead.
There we go.
Okay. So I'm not sure if you've come to previous previous classes of this program or not. So we thought we would just explain a little bit about what the sefirot are and why we count them during the Omer, why they're here during the Omer. So sefirot is another word for counting, and it talks about the spheres of Kabbalah, of Jewish mysticism. And we connect these two things because we sort of go up a ladder or a scale during the Omer, and it's sort of like a ladder to greatness, I think, towards Sinai, and as we climb the mountain to receive the commandments in the Torah. And we are given this Omer period to get ready for that, to prepare ourselves for that big moment. We have 7 full weeks to do that. And the Zohar, which is the foundation of the Kabbalah, teaches that while the Israelites were slaves in Egypt, the Israelites were under the evil influence of the other side, which rendered them spiritually impure. And the 7 weeks of the Omer help us to become clean and realize our inner Judaism and our inner peoplehood, and to really understand that we are a community and that we can work together, and then we can receive the commandments and the Torah together. And on the side of this slide is just a little diagram about the different values that we embody throughout the Omer and throughout the sefirot. So once again, we're in Netzach, victory. Okay, we can continue. Thank you, Jordan. I think you skipped one. There we go.
Yes, there you
go. So as we continuing on the explanation of the sefirot, these are the 7 dimensions of the divine psyche, and all 7 work together. And it helps us to remember that we're all made in God's image. We all have the ability to attain all of these qualities. We can all be beautiful. We can all have endurance. We can all be kind. We can do them all at the same time or at separate times. And these qualities feed off of each other. Sometimes you create beauty through compassion or vice versa. And so all of these things work together, and it also works together in our bodies. There's some belief that each of these qualities is a body part as well. I think that Netzach is one of your thighs, because it's a really strong element that holds us up. So we can continue. The next one, thank you.
There we go.
Yes, so as I mentioned, we are halfway in the Omer since Passover. And so in this halfway point, you can ask yourselves, what have you accomplished since Passover? Maybe you've started a new ritual. Maybe you've come to all these classes, and that's a great accomplishment. Maybe you recovered from some sort of illness, whatever it might be. Does anyone have anything to share that they've accomplished since Passover?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
I broke my arm on March 16th, and today I started physical therapy. My bone is healed, and today I started physical therapy. So I feel very good about that.
That's wonderful.
Yeshikoach.
Yeah, beautiful. That's great to share. Thank you so much. And you have accomplished a lot in the recovery process. I assume your body had to do a lot of healing to get to where you are. Anyone
Yes.
else that would like to share? Yes, Karen.
I had a surgery about 6 weeks ago, shortly before Passover. So, and I have been healing and I'm feeling a lot better. So, endurance.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we all need endurance at some point in our lives. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then the other side of this conversation is, of course, what are you working towards in this? As you look ahead towards Shavuot or towards something new in your life, towards the summertime. Does anyone have anything coming up that they're thinking about in the next couple of weeks? Oh, Karen, share again. Thank you.
I've got a new baby granddaughter coming in about 2 months.
Oh, wonderful.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
Great. Any other things to share?
We're moving to a new apartment.
Moving to a new apartment. There's a lot to accomplish there also. Okay, fantastic. Hope that goes well for you.
Thank you.
So these are things you can continue to reflect upon during this week, and as you continue in the Omer. As I mentioned when we started, it's a really nice time for reflection. Okay, you can go ahead to my last one, I think. Yes. So getting really into Netzach, that was for an overview of the entire sefirot system. So Netzach, as I mentioned, it is a parallel with our thighs, because our thighs support our bodies and they carry our body places. We often forget all the different parts of our body and how we get to places. But the thighs are really strong. They hold our femurs, which is a really important bone. Netzach is also aligned with Moses because he carried the Israelites and he preserved the peoplehood and the Torah and the Ark in difficult times, just like the quality of endurance would. So he had a lot of strength. And the word Netzach comes from the word menetziach, which means to conquer or overcome. As some of you mentioned, you're overcoming an illness and you are ready to go forward and develop your muscles a little bit. And with Netzach, all of this can be achieved through tenacity, through persistence or resilience, and also a lot of patience. And that's what those of you who shared are, I'm sure, going through in your processes. And so I hope that in these upcoming weeks and days of the Omer and towards Shavuot, you can continue to practice these qualities and feel renewed in your journey. Jordan, take it. Rabbi Parr, sorry, take it away.
That's okay. We can be first name today.
Okay.
Yep, very happy to. All right, I'm taking it in a little different form. And actually, let me go back up here. What set me in the direction I'm going to take you is the word menatzeach, which immediately brought to mind a song we used to sing in high school, La Menatzeach, which is a cue from the book of Psalms. So there's a tradition in Kabbalah that says that with Kabbalah, you get your head is in the clouds, but your feet are planted firmly on earth. So I'm doing the plant firmly on earth part, I suppose. And La Menatzeach is translated in the JPS, Jewish Publication Society, Tanakh, as for the leader. But as we saw just a minute ago, it can also mean victory. And these Psalms from Psalm 64 through 70, we're obviously not going to look at all of them, actually reflect that. And so in a sense, this is the earliest manifestation of the sefirot of endurance and also victory, because as you're saying here in your comments as well, is that if we endure, we're going to be victorious, whether it's recovering from an injury or if it's the expectation. I'm sure that the expectation of a new baby coming. That's certainly endurance for any pregnant woman. I know my daughter's gone through that a couple of times, thank God, and it's been an endurance test for her. But the victory, of course, is wonderful grandchildren. So we can think of it that way as well. So let me move on a little bit. And again, if you have a question, just let me know. I'm gonna stop so we have time for more Q&A at the end. But here's just a couple examples. Each of these Psalms, and this is Psalm 66, starts, and I'll just read the Hebrew preface here. Lamenatseach Shir Mizmor. Lamenatseach, a song, a mizmor is also another name for a song. We could also say it's a psalm. That's how JPS translates it. And again, Lamenatseach says for the leader, but if we take it in the way we've been looking at it tonight, it could also mean that it is a psalm of victory. And these psalms, Psalm 70 might be a little bit different, which we'll look at in a second. All talk about God's victory on earth. And here, earth is personified. Raise a shout, O God, all the earth. Hariu le'Elohim, the song that we used to sing in youth group, Hariu l'Adonai kol ha'aretz. If you know Hebrew, you see that's pretty much a direct translation. Sing the glory of God's name, make glorious God's praise. Say to God, how awesome are your deeds. Your enemies cower before your great strength. All the earth bows to you and sings hymns to you. All sing hymns to your name, Selah. And Selah might be a cognate for the word Amen. It's praise, thanks, agreement, hallelujah, perhaps. Literally, it's a rock, but in this context, it's more of a final praise. So here you see, and you can see more specifically in these other verses, exactly what God did to declare victory. And a victory for God is dependent on us as humans in this context. So we can see here, this is also a psalm that refers to the Exodus. God turned the sea into dry land. They crossed the river on foot. So we rejoice in God. God rules forever through might. God's eyes scan the nations. Let the rebellious not assert themselves. So again, it is a praise of what God has done. And in the context of our march to Shavuot, we see the very beginnings of that march by turning the sea into dry land. It's something that we remember from our seders and from the stories that we learned, even from the time that we were small children, growing up in our synagogues, and perhaps if you've chosen Judaism. I'm sure you've learned that in churches as well, and just through general knowledge. Moving on, as I mentioned a minute ago, Psalm 70, and this one starts in a little bit more somber tone, but again, Lamenatseach, that's the important cue here, and I'll read that tag in the Hebrew, Lamenatseach LeDavid Lahaskir. So again, for the victory, for the leader, for David, Lahaskir from the word Zecher, remembrance, to remember. So this one again takes a historical bent. When we look at Psalms, there's a lot more to this book than just the simple meaning. It's the original Siddur, I believe, of the Jewish people, and so we use a great part of it in our worship and just in daily readings as well. When I was sick, for example, I'd read Psalms, and I've been with groups that read Psalms on behalf of other people who are sick. And my words are, with a good doctor and good prayer, we're going to do okay. So here's someone, perhaps it was David, who felt that he or she was in trouble. Hasten, O God, to save me. Adonai, aid me. and let those who seek my life be frustrated and disgraced. Let those who wish me harm fall back in shame. Let those who say, aha, aha, turn back because of their frustration. You wonder where we get the word aha from. There we go. It's in the Bible, folks. So, and so that is Yeshua. Yeah, ha'ach, ha'ach is the Hebrew. So could also mean brother, brother. Ach being brother, but that's probably where we get the word aha, which is a pretty cool turn of phrase. It's good if you're, if you want to impress your friends in a trivia contest. So, but this first part, these first 4 verses, basically say or beseech God to help us. It sounds like David or whomever composed the psalm, is being chased, is in mortal danger, and those who seek my life is the giveaway there. But the poetry turns in verse 5. Let all who seek you be glad and rejoice in you. Let those who are eager for your deliverance always say, extolled be God. Now, at the end of verse 5, Yeshuatech, or actually I'm sorry, Tamid Yigdal Elohim, extolled be God. Yigdal Elohim Chai, we know that as an old Shabbat song, or Yigdal, again, Yitgadal from the beginning of the Kaddish. These are words extolled and glorified. That we praise God. But I am poor and needy, O God. Hasten to me. You are my help and my rescuer. Adonai, do not delay. So the psalm will continue in the same sense. Actually, that is the entire psalm. I'm sorry. So this is a short one. But when we beseech God for help and turn to God in all sincerity and in all penitence and hope, our prayers will be answered. Netzach, again, I'm going to translate it for victory in the sense of how we are embarking upon our journey this evening. So let me finish before we take questions and just give you a summary, because I'm one of those Hebrew grammar nerds. It drove my classmates crazy at HEC, I have to say. Where we have Netzach, Minatzach, Nitzachon, they're all from the same root. Nun Sarichet. Nitzachon is victory. And we saw Laminasech for the victors, or for the perpetrator of victory, which would be God. And then Netzach is the root form. And I think what we've both been talking about, again, just where I started, and I think where Rabbi Shribman started as well, is endurance leads to victory. And if we stay the course, whether it's in our physical health, our mental health, or just in our spiritual or physical journeys during our time here on this planet, we will succeed with that faith in God. We will emerge victorious, and that's really the journey from Pesach to Shavuot, because as the rabbis say, Shavuot is the time where Zaman Matan Torah, the time that we receive the Torah, and that of course for our people, even greater than the crossing of the Sea of Reeds, I think, is our greatest victory. And to wander the desert for 7 weeks as newly freed slaves is no small feat. So that's, I think, where we're going. All right, so I'm going to stop here in case anybody has any questions of either of us. Just go. I'm just reformatting my screen here. I'm going to leave this up for just a second, so you can take in this last slide. Anybody have any questions or comments on this?
How long has this practice of using the sefirot with the counting of the Omer?
Well, It's
Is
gone.
is this 20th century? Is this medieval?
No, it's more like second century.
Second century, really?
I think so.
Okay.
The sefirot, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's an ancient idea that God created 10 vessels of light to create the world. And then the force of that light within each vessel, each sephirah, was so great that the vessels cracked. So our job on earth is to put those vessels, those shards of light back in their containers. And that is the original meaning of tikkun olam, to repair the world. We think of tikkun olam today as social justice, but the ancient meaning in this very, very incredibly complicated idea of sefirot, which predates the Zohar by probably about 1,000 years, is that through mitzvot and through contemplation and study of Kabbalah, we will bring the world to a sense of unity, as it were. And so that's the ultimate spiritual journey. I've described something that takes years of study to really understand, and I've been at it since I was an undergrad in college, and I still don't understand it completely. So, but that's basic. That's the basics of it in a nutshell. It's been around.
I'm sorry. When did it? We're looking at it at this particular time period, the counting of the Omer.
Omer, yes.
Yes. So, when did that practice start?
That's biblical.
Ah,
Yes.
interesting.
It's actually the Torah portion this Shabbat.
Yeah.
Parshat Omer. I'm working with the bar mitzvah boy actually this weekend. He's going to be reading about the Pesach, but right after Pesach, in the description of the biblical festival cycle, is the counting of the Omer. 7 weeks shall you count, 7 weeks of Omer. Omer is a sheaf of wheat or barley that is waved in the temple each day to count the days between the second night of Pesach and Shavuot. And it was a counting system. It's a calendar that that was used in the tabernacle and then later in the temple. And it's just in that sense, it helps us keep time. And over the centuries, it was given much more mystical meaning, as my colleague and friend here had described.
Maybe Omer helps us also figure out like when the seasons continue. So the second during Passover, that's officially when summer starts in the Jewish calendar. So if you were in Israel, it'd be a lot warmer. And I'm not sure where you're all based, but it's a lot warmer.
It's pretty hot down here. Yes.
Well, I guess in Texas, yes. But in Israel, that's when summer officially begins and when you can start to see things growing again. And you maybe even see wheat starting to grow. And that's why we also have this focus.
Thank you.
Oh.
Any other questions? Anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Ralph?
if someone from the same rectangle can speak. I was intrigued by the thought that Netzach is linked, traditionally linked to our thigh. And I don't know if the other sefirot are connected to other parts of our body. But
yeah. So can you go back up a couple slides?
Sure.
There's like a diagram of that one, number 3. So this one has it's not really a great way to see where everything is, but you can sort of tell where things hit on your body. So, and this is also with the this also tells you the English translation of them. So you can see kindness and Gevurah. I guess are kind of like your arms. So if you imagine that you are hugging someone as a way of being kind, or you're saying, no, I want to create a boundary between you and me, or I want to create strength with my arms. That's also another word for Gevurah. And then your compassion is probably somewhere in your heart, in your chest, right? And Netzach, this diagram shows it more on like your hip, but that which could also be a great sustainer of your body, the center of your body, right? And then we have Hod, and that could be the other thigh or your other hip. Yesod is sort of your middle section that helps us to develop and make future generations. And that's one of connection and foundation. And then the last one is Malchut, or sovereignty. And I can't really tell what that could be in this diagram, but that could maybe be like your feet. I'm not really sure about that one. I always think of Malchut as your head, sort of like your crown. So I'm not sure I like this diagram that much.
That's the way they did it.
Yeah,
2,000 years ago.
Author's
Yeah.
opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. Malchut is like a kingdom, and there's 3 more sefirot above that, but those are ineffable. Nobody can experience that. The idea of Kabbalah is to raise yourself from Malchut through these levels, and the only one who got to the top, so to speak, was Moses. And the three top ones are really reserved for God. Yeah. So we use this diagram in many different ways. We're using it today with the Omer, but it can be used in other ways. And a cheap plug for me is that Shavuot on our Tikkun Leil Shavuot. I'll be going into this in a little more detail and how it relates to the 10 Commandments. So that's just a preview.
Great.
Any last questions? Because we want to be respectful of the time, and I understand we only had 30 minutes. We can take 32. We won't lose our smicha over that. But any last thoughts or?
I appreciate your pointing out that Lam Netzach can mean
Oh.
several different things in those psalms. So it's not just necessarily the leader, but to the spirit of endurance and victory that any one of us can develop.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to leave us. Rabbi Shribman wrote this little prayer, and I'm going to ask her to read it on our behalf as a wonderful conclusion. But before you do, feel free to contact either of us. This is going to be recorded. And if you're not sure how to find us, your rabbi does know and can reach out, and you can reach out to us for this or any other questions you might have. So if you would take it away in conclusion.
Yeah, thanks. I always like to end things with all the blessing. It's really great that we were all here together. May we all continue to endure through the ups and downs. May we continue to persist every day, even while knowing that doing it every day is the hardest part. May we continue to take this day by day and be gentle with ourselves when it is difficult. May our enduring love for ourselves and each other provide the strength we need to persevere this current reality. I hope all of that can come true for all of you. Thank you so much for being here.
Amen.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And thank you.
Thank you.